Good evening, everyone. Welcome to DIA. My name is Matilde Guidelli. I'm a curator here, and I have the pleasure to organize the Artist on Artist lecture series, where since 2001, we invite an artist to reflect upon the work of another artist in DIA's collection and past program. And I'm very honored to introduce tonight's event, featuring Michael Krebber on Andy Warhol. But before then, a few thanks are due to those who helped make tonight possible, and in particular, Sam and the team at Greene Naftali Gallery, Max, Kim, Ella, and the visitor service team at DIA, and of course, to Andy Warhol. DIA's relationship with Warhol has seen many stages. Even before DIA was established, its co-founder, Heiner Friedrich, presented Warhol's paintings and films at his Munich and Cologne galleries. A collection of about 100 works was gathered in the following decade, exhibited in DIA's downtown locales, and then the accession to establish the Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh. The single work remaining in the collection are the 102 Shadows, currently on display at DIA Beacon, commissioned by DIA and debuting on West Broadway in 1979 as Disco Decor, as Warhol's own words, because everybody would show up not for the paintings, but for the glamorous opening party. Michael Krebber's latest show at Greene Naftali commenced this fall season of New York openings and unfolded in 3 parts or stanzas, presenting Turing machine diagrams, the content of his studio, and an empty room. The content of the studio was laid out in a non-descriptive way, avoiding to resemble installation art. Everything remained functional and allegedly exactly as it is in the studio, though admittedly some elements were edited out, such as the painter's shoes, and superfluous objective elements stayed, a music stand unused for years. Krebber's precision of description and transformation was such that the exhibition contained the full palette of emotions implied by the gesture of bringing the studio in the gallery and stop the painting machine, which is a cliché on its own and therefore could be easily digested according to 2 polar emotions, melancholia and cynicism. Instead, notions of reality and poetry came to the fore in Krebber's show. How do you achieve reality in a milieu that feasts in the symbolic? And the acrobatics of making repetition feel as if hearing something complex for the first time. The machine drawings, the full range of emotions, and the blank room offering a space to download feeling also brought to my mind the levity of Warhol's most choreographic paintings, the dance diagrams, the car crashes, and the monochrome fields. In many ways, tonight is one of the logical consequences of Krebber's recent exhibition. This is Act 2, and we are all playing our part in it. One of the things Michael does well is to walk the fine line between echo chamber and mise en abîme. And so, rather than adding more words, I will just quote from what has been written over the years by some of you in this room, on or by Michael. The opening of his exhibition was both original and imitative. Images had been made to suggest the impossibility of creating more images. Krabber makes the condition of being stuck a key operating principle. Krabber sets impossible standards for himself. But I find the mood at this point quite good. And so, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Michael Krebber on Andy Warhol.
Thank you very much for the very nice introduction, Matilde, and thank you for the very nice invitation. I moved to New York about 8 years ago. As some of you know, and I'm originally from Cologne, and I was raised in Cologne, and I'm born in 1954, which is important because in the year of 67, I was 13 years old. 67 is the year when the art fair was first installed and actually invented in Cologne. And I will try to tell you, or I will hint at many anecdotes of that time and of later times, and maybe not speak so much about what is announced about the shadow paintings of Andy Warhol, but Andy Warhol himself, his persona, and also his crafts are so fetishized by myself that I think, that I hope that in the end this will make sense for you a little bit. And I have to learn the presentation mode. Now, yeah, this is a very nice sheet of paper which has the text. It says the Lone Star Foundation, which is already a very beautiful name. And it says the name of 79, which is important for me. And to start with Cologne, and to start with Cologne in the early 60s, yeah? You see, you can recognize this here when you look at the cars and everything. And this is from the front. And Cologne has an old tradition of collecting, of art collecting and of art trade. And a very famous figure is Schnütgen. I think the trading and the collecting and the trading started long ago. But Schnütgen, he was, yeah, you see it when that was taken. But it was the last photo of him before he passed away. And he was a collector, like a voracious collector, I would say. And he saved and collected all items that were discarded from churches at that time, which happened regularly. And he collected so many things that finally they set up a museum for him. I don't know when that was. When they started the museum. This is St. Cecilia, one of the Romanesque churches in Cologne, of the many Romanesque churches, and one of the most beautiful ones. And this is the interior. And I only found this while I was preparing this, and this one here, because I once saw photos of his collection, like archival photos of that time, of the time when the museum was founded, of his collections, where you see, I don't know how many, like maybe hundreds, maybe only 50 of these, always the same object, like a crucifix here or a liturgical object, and they are piled up like or set next to each other like butterflies in boxes. And I say all that because that has a reason for all what had happened in Cologne in the 60s and late 50s or earlier, like after the war. But from Schnütgen, I want to go to the new books of the Catalogue Raisonné, number 6, and these are the two ones with the shadow paintings in them. And just that you see, because I just talked a bit about Schnütgen, as I mean, Andy Warhol did not arrange these, but I think he would have liked it a lot. Huh? And it goes on and on and on, and the backgrounds of Warhol's large shadows, and so. And then I have these, the perfume bottles because of the liturgical objects, and more shadows, more here. Photo from the factory for choosing the color, and photos of Caltroni, but I forgot his first name. James Welling, he talked about that when he talked at DIA. And these beautiful photos, and even this is not in focus, I didn't care. And yeah. And here is again Andy Warhol in the factory, and you see he's a collector too. And Chamberlain, always good to see his face, so I thought. And well, and then here is another photo of Andy Warhol in the exhibition. I'm showing this together with this photo, and this was a very famous photo at the time it was taken, and is still a famous photo now with the internet. Blinke Palermo in Hamburg with a level, and I think Andy Wall must have known this, but also, I mean, both of them were real ones, so it doesn't matter who invented the level. But this was in '73, I think, and so this exhibition of Blinke Palermo happened in the Kunstverein in Hamburg, and as artists often like to ask for architectural changes in the exhibition space, but this thing here looks like it existed already. One was standing in that room, and Palermo decided to paint it brown. That was his exhibition, and then there was a wall separating the foyer with a cashier and the exhibition space, and that's where he made this drawing, which shows the floor plan of the object that he painted. And that's why here it says the date of '73, and so I just want to, now let me get to the point. Now, he needed the level for that. And what I wanted to say, the point is that he was, I mean, he was still alive at that time. He only passed away after he moved to New York and also had moved back to Germany. So you could also see him, and I say some things here. I don't know if they are true, but this is what I always had in my head and still have in my mind. He was something like, he was first absolutely elegant, and he was a kind of, I could say a kind of James Dean person, like James Dean with a jacket and this movement to have the collar up, so he moved like that, and but he didn't move like that. He didn't fake James Dean. He was himself a person like that, and. He was also not loud as James Dean. He was always calm and silent and polite, and he was drinking, and he was taking drugs. I don't know which drugs he took, but he took any drug. This is what they say about him. And a friend said to me that when there were no drugs, he had taken aspirin, and. I say that also because he never got loud. He was this kind of person as you see him here. And also everyone liked him. I don't know anyone who didn't like him. And I show, so back to this, because he was a student of Beuys, and there was a real relationship between them. And when he started to study, he was wearing a beard, a full beard, and smoking a pipe. And there is a photo of that. And his name was Peter Heisterkamp, his original name. You will know that. Some of you might not. And he was a jazz fan. And when you have a look at the Catalogue Raisonné, at the early drawings, you see that, this kind of taste or whatever I could call that. And it is said that Beuys told him or suggested he should not smoke a pipe. And but he did more, so he shaved, he stopped smoking the pipe, he changed his name, so here he also shaved his head, and the watercolors changed, the colors in the watercolors changed. And his drawings and watercolors always had a quality that was, it was like the same quality that you could see in Beuys drawings. It's a very rare quality, I would say, although this is hard to understand these days, because Beuys just kind of disappeared. And the man in the middle is Sigmar Polke. And I did say this because brown, the color that he chose for the Kunstverein Hamburg, that was painted in brown. And brown is a very interesting color, and it was the color of Beuys. And these are paintings I own. I show them it must say the date somewhere, yeah, 71 and 72. This was an exhibition at Heiner Friedrich in Cologne with a collaboration of Gerhard Richter on the left side and Palermo always on the right side. Palermo, that was just a piece of fabric with a chosen color. And also they call it Gemeinschaftsbild. Yeah, this is something else than collaboration because it has Gemeinschaft is like company is in the name. I can't translate Gemeinschaftsbild. And all this is earlier than what Andy Wall did with the shadow paintings. I will come back to that soon. That's a photo of the exhibition with Gerhard Richter and Palermo. This is a book published by Zadig is the name. It's an archive for the art trade in Germany and founded by Rudolf Zwirner. And they published many books that I only highly recommend. And they're all in German language, but that's actually the information I think that one needs. And so just to show some others and also to get to what had been in Cologne earlier than like in 67, what had happened before. And this is actually the very start. At that time, I must have been 6 years old. And it was a studio of Mary Bauermeister and her partner at that time, her friend. I couldn't find his name anymore, and I don't have the books here. In this beautiful architecture, also very typical for Cologne. It is a Schilling building, and this style is all over Cologne and the old museum in Cologne, which now shows the furniture and decorative objects. That was the old Wallraf Richards Museum, where also Ludwig collection was shown. And this is a beautiful building, and it's a kind of modernism with a mix of church in it. And all these architects built churches at that time, and also like it was still Adenauer era, it was very against this era, yeah? And politicians hated these buildings. Politicians of that time, of the Adenauer, of the conservative side. Yeah, and Mary Bauermeister, she did regularly invited to performances, concerts, etc., and that's how John Cage came to Cologne. That's how Fluxus artists came to Cologne, and this is very important because the beginning was not the art. I think Stockhausen, whether you like him or not, he then became the husband of Mary Bauermeister. But also he founded the Studio for Electronic Music in Cologne, and this is Fluxus again. I don't know where the photo was taken. I have it here because I think in the end Fluxus won. And then this is very important for the beginnings of Cologne. This was like the politician of the Social Democratic Party, Kurt Hackenberg, and he was in charge of all cultural affairs in Cologne. And I don't know about how he started because he was in office since long. And wait, this will be important in a moment. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong one. So is actually, you can blame him on everything that happened in Cologne. So he made everything possible. And he was also a person who spoke Cologne dialect and who said du to everybody. In Germany, we don't just say you can say either du or sie. Yeah? And sie is the more distant and more polite one, probably. Yeah? Du, you must watch it. And he was one of those who said du to everyone. And these kind of people exist, and then he also was a boss, and so I didn't never talk to him. Also, it must have been a pleasure. And what he did, also he made. Let me start just here. This is something else that happened in Cologne during the same time. It was the foundation. It was the launch of the third program of the radio station in Cologne also became a TV station. The father of Candida Höfer was involved in this, and when that came up, that was also the time when step by step the color TV got installed. And before, you only had 2 channels, and the channels actually, my parents never had a TV set until this time. Then immediately a TV set was bought. I could only watch TV at friends' houses, and it was like Bonanza, Smoking Gun, and all these American things, and like a kind of very campy pleasure. And with this came a completely different, like a mood into the world in Cologne, yeah. And all of a sudden, because they were also still training, they showed, for example, all Marx Brothers films weekly, like every Saturday, one of these films. And the important thing was they showed them in the original language with subtitles, so that doesn't exist anymore. And they did, so you saw like 10 or 15, I don't know how many there are. I saw them all. And then they showed maybe 8 Mae West movies, all in original with subtitles. And you saw these and many more. This, I only have this here in case I would have forgotten the subtitles. Huh? And this is Hein Stünke. And he had a gallery. The gallery still exists, but became very small in the meantime. So he had a gallery, and he was actually original. I can say it. Caspar Koenig also said it in an interview about his wife, that she had been such a stout Nazi. And he laughed, so it was not a problem. They really had been Nazis, and they had the first gallery in Cologne after the war, and they showed they had the connection to Paul Éluard, to Max Ernst, and so this is what they did, and they did like Villègle As, and all these things were shown in their gallery, and. But he was also a man like Dieter Roth. He was also into designing things and into printing, and he did not only make commitments to craftsmen. He set up the studios in his gallery, so there was a place for bookbinding, there was a place for framing, etc. Much more, but I don't know that, also, the frames that you still see when you see the original frames of polka drawings, they were all done by the framer that he actually hired as a bookbinder. And he also designed himself. And my wife and me in Cologne, we have a table that was designed by him in an edition of 1. Yeah, so like it was never produced. Yeah? And so. He also had a connection to Zandberg in Amsterdam, Stedelijk Museum, yeah. And so with Caspar Koenig, there you can talk about all those things. And he printed these books, yeah. And him and Zwirner with Hackenberg and so on. So I don't know so much about history, so people who know about the matter could interrupt me. This was the first art fair in '67, and unfortunately, my father told me about it. I didn't go. And what is this? At the same time, and also the third program is part of that, this was constantly there, yeah, like pop art, and so you heard about the factory, etc., etc. And now just things that were up, like kind of daily, and a lot through the third program. Yeah? That was, of course, Beuys. That was Oswald Wiener. Yeah, you had in the cultural magazine of third program, you had Oswald Wiener as producing a pint in his restaurant Exil. I couldn't find that photo because my books are in Cologne, but this was his famous book. And so that was up everywhere, and everybody talked about it. Nobody read it, but the people who could read something like that. I was one of those people who can read. They said that to me. Then I read the book from page 1 to the last page without understanding a word, but I really did it. And but later I could understand a bit better. And this was up all the time. Vienna Actionists and Hermann Nietzsche and Günter Bruce and what is this again? Vostell. Yes, this was another important person in Cologne. He did Happening, but he was also, like Beuys, also a little bit. He embraced Happening. He embraced Fluxus. So they all wanted to be the director of it. Yeah? But of course, you find him in history. But he was not really a Fluxus artist. But he also had a connection to France again, and France. What is it? I forgot the name for that. Décollage, and that was the name of his magazine that he published, with like Yves Klein, Villagler, Ins, etc., etc. And that was also shown at Galerie der Spiegel. And then together with Fritz Heubach, they founded Interfunktionen. And the model, Décollage was the model for that. So he was an important figure. Still, Otto Mühl, I must say, at that time, I don't want to show you that, but the subway was about to be constructed in Cologne. There existed no subway before, and as you know, Cologne is a very small kind of a village. And the subway was not finished yet, and then there happened a happening of Otto Mühl down there in the subway, and I think they might have killed a swan, and they urinated, and they tried to masturbate and did things like that. And there was a big scandal after that, and Hackenberg was actually the person always standing behind it or next to it and defending it. It was incredible. And then in these days, maybe 69, but I don't know exactly, Bookshop König was founded. Here, I have to show him first, Kaspar König, who just passed away. And this bookshop was like a kind of paradise. Again, this came together with the information that you got from the third program and from everything else around. And this bookshop was the first bookshop to have a table where you could read the books. And up to that time, you went to a bookshop and got the question, "May I help you?" which meant, "Don't touch a book, please." And here you could just come there, and sometimes I did every day, and the table was not that large yet, because not so many books were printed yet, but you could read everything. So Interfunktion, I could read the whole issue here in the bookshop, and never ever anybody asked me this or that. And also the conversations that you listened to and the telephone talks was all very, very interesting. And my God, that was a nice atmosphere. And I brought the money that I got from my parents for birthday and Christmas. I brought it there, and that was it. And Kaspar König, he was not so much in Cologne in the early days, or I didn't see him a lot. Maybe he lived in New York already, and always telephoning with Konrad Fischer, and what Kaspar König, he did something so beautiful that was too early for me. I was too young, but I had a small booklet, like a catalog about that. He organized, with some others, he organized a festival for bee pictures. And Fritz Heubach, he told me that he attended with his friend, and you could watch the fuzzy films, El St. John, like the complete fuzzy films, over one night, and you got out of the movie theater in the morning at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, when it was light already, had gone light already, and you saw like the catalogue raisonné of El St. John fuzzy films, and with a beautiful voice and all that. And Heubach told me that then when you see the fourth film, or then the fifth film, and the sixth film, then they are always done with the same material to be cheap in production. So you know the train is coming here. There will be the cactus in a moment on the right side, and then the one on the left side. So that was a joke. And I told this story to Kaspar Koenig one day, and he said, yeah, when he got out of the movie theater in the morning, then you saw all the buckets and the cleaning material of the window cleaners piled up at the entrance. Because they had to get up so early, and then they could watch some fuzzy films before starting to clean the windows. And yeah, Roger Herman, you know him. Huh? Yeah, and this is something that happened in the same movie theater. It is opposite from where's Walter Koenig bookshop today. And unfortunately, this movie theater doesn't exist anymore. Very important place over different eras in my life, or in Cologne's life. And this is Birgit Hein and Wilhelm Hein, and they did something. I never attended that they had screenings. They set up screenings at, like, does it say a time? Yeah, sometimes it was at 3 o'clock in the night, and they showed Kurt Kren films of the Vienna actionists together with porn films. And Kurt Kren was the projectionist, or sometimes the projectionist, I don't know. Kurt Kren is here, this one, and some of you might know him, because in '77 with Heubach I saw him here on the street, and yeah, here I want to say Tony Conrad also was in touch with this. He told me, and because once the projection started to move. And it was a porn movie, yeah? And many people went there just to see the porn film. And porn was prohibited in Germany at that time. So you had to go to Denmark and buy a film and then bring it, smuggle it to Germany. And then you could show it without permission. And so many people went there because of the porn. And when the film went out, the projection went out of focus and started to move, he went up to the projectionist's room, and he saw Kurt Kren being deadly drunk and doing something like this, and so he saved the projection, and the people could continue watching porn. And all this was also backed by Kurt Hackenberg, yeah? And because Wilhelm Hein told me that Hackenberg afterwards, after he heard about this, he said, yeah, but you didn't tell me that you were going to show Larifari. You should have told me, yeah, if I shall back your care about your back, also, so if I shall defend you, yeah. But it was obviously no problem. And I only show this because he is with Rolf-Dieter Brinkmann, the famous Cologne writer, and he published an anthology with beat poets and etc. And he also fetishized America, one could say, and well, Hackenberg again. This is just to remember, 67 was 67, yeah, with all the demonstrations and everything. This happened, I don't remember the year, 69 maybe, I have no idea. It was in Kunsthalle, and it has this very modest catalog. Inside, page by page, it looks like this. It only has the calendar of all the events. And it was actually the catalog is founded on collection Sohm. That's a bit important. They collected like everything about Fluxus, every sheet of paper that you could get, and so on and so on. But this exhibition was such a sensation. As you went inside, and you have seen the photo of Hermann Nietzsche before. There was like one room, you went inside, and there were small booths, like on an art fair, but really tiny booths. Something like from here to the beginning of the projection, and there was an artist sitting or standing in each booth, like in like the back area of a book fair in Frankfurt. With the smaller publishing houses, yeah, and then Hermann Nietzsche had a slaughtered lamb hanging there, and had these small glasses with blood, and always pour blood over the testicles. And in the next room there was Nam June Paik, and then around the corner Beuys was sitting on the floor explaining his new party that he had founded, etc., etc. Interfunktionen, that came out a little bit earlier, but just Interfunktionen, founded by Fritz Heubach. He will come again. You will see him again on photos. You have the list of names here. Mauricio Kagel is also there. It was important. This is a wonderful questions and answers of Karl André. And I couldn't find the sentence. I thought it was in here. Like culture is, art is what we do, culture is what is done to us. But maybe you can find it here. But actually, I like this very much. This was one, the fountain. And Dan Graham, there was a connection to Dan Graham from early on. And Dan Graham was also someone who gave hints to Heubach to look at this or to look at that. And Heubach told me he also said things to him that where he added a comment like, it's not really my taste, but, and so on. It was very good advice that he gave. Sounds like that to me. And he, early on, he did an exhibition at Zwirner in his then new-built Brutalist gallery. Was hilarious. And that looked like this. Because it was Dan Graham, to say an anecdote about Dan Graham, he was doing these projections that have to be shown simultaneously, but nothing was simultaneous. And the TV set didn't work. And when something didn't work, he bumped at it. Yeah? And so he was like the absolute not technical person working with all this technology. And so, another chapter, this is the collector Wolfgang Hahn, and he started collecting when he was still in school, buying something and pay it off with like 50 D-Mark week by week or month by month. And he continued to collect like that over life. And his collection was always kind of very small, and he was everybody knew him. You saw him, you could see him like day over day on the street, often walking over to Bookshop König, always in conversation. You could see him at Michael Bute at his studio, and that's this again. Why? Here he is. This is the photo, this is more in focus, but this is the original photo because there is a Chamberlain also on the right. And this is him showing his collection. Yeah? So he has, that means he has one Oldenburg, one Siegel, an Andy Warhol, one Rauschenberg, another Andy Warhol, a George Brecht, a Dieter Roth, and so on. And his show was shown in Cologne, I think in '68, early '68. Also, I missed to see that. But he made the contact, he connected Ludwig to Hackenberg, probably, I suspect, and to the city of Cologne, and which in the end brought now where is he? which brought Ludwig to Cologne. Yeah? And I didn't find one photo of the original Ludwig collection in the old museum, the Wallraf-Richartz Museum, because that was, also for me, as a kind of, no, not child, but 14 years old, it was just paradise. And you had in one room, you had the Baroque paintings and Rubens, and in the next room it started with Tinguely, with Warhol, etc., etc. And at that time you could still use the buttons of the Tinguely, for example, yeah, and you could still open the door of the Rauschenberg by hand. It was not like today, and that was a big event in Cologne, and I have this here just because this is a work. It will come later. This is a work of Hostel. Which means like when the traffic is stopped, when you're in a traffic jam, maybe. It was his Cadillac cast in concrete with running radio on, and blocking a parking lot. Yeah, that's important. Yeah? Because later it didn't block a parking lot anymore. And this was also on Newmarket of the Arts, like in front of Kunsthalle, where you had the official art fair. From second time on, from 68 on, there was like the Neumarkt was full with art. And even I was standing there and selling. I had just started to copy Oldenburg. I had made a huge something for, I don't know the English words anymore now. So I had copied lots of Oldenburg too, and was also trying to sell it, but I didn't. And so you saw these things on the Neumarkt, yeah, on all levels. And then this is now about the art fair. So the important persons. This is one René Bloch, you know. From Berlin, he didn't move to Cologne. That was Konrad Fischer, who was in Düsseldorf, and Düsseldorf is next to Cologne, yeah? But at that time, for me, it was far away. Polke and Rune Miels in the background, standing on the Karl André. Franz Dahlem, who worked together with Heiner Friedrich, and who bought the Kraushaar collection very early, so I don't know who started, if it was Ludwig or him, and so on. I would have to look it up. I'm not so interested in that. He's standing here with Baselitz. In the middle, by the way, that is a portrait of Thordis Möller. Franz Dahlem. Then here, this is Heiner Friedrich and Franz Dahlem with Karl Ströer, who was the one who had to buy the Kraushaar collection. And when you see these photos, it always looks very tough, all the times. Like if you see the photos of Heiner Friedrich and Franz Dahlem working on an art fair, this always looks very tough. And but Ströer was, sometimes I thought Ströer was like a victim, yeah? And because I also heard stories about Franz Dahlem getting into the apartment of a person who was going to buy art, and when there was something at the wall that didn't fit to what was Franz Dahlem was going to do, an Antes painting, for example, he took it off and said, no, you can't have that on the wall anymore. And I read a note, and I don't remember it, that Ströer was very shrewd, and so there were 2 ones or 3 ones of the same caliber. Michael Werner moved to Cologne in those days because the art fair was one point, but because of everything that happened with Hackenberg also. Yeah, there in Lindenstraße, a complete building was declared gallery house, and the model for this was the Faller building. I think it's called Faller building, the one where Pierre Matisse had his gallery on 59th Street. Is it 59th? I think so, or 57. Mm-hmm. And so here you see the names of the galleries, yeah. Thelen, they showed Paul Teck often. Huh? Ricke, very important. Onash is a gallerist. Many made fun about him. He was like said to be wealthy, and he was like a bear walking like that. And Polke called him Onassis, which means like Onassis with a shit in the end, but in a friendly way. Huh? And he also, Onash, that's very important, but it will come again. He also moved to New York and opened a gallery here, together with Lutze. She will also come up with Jack Smith. And that was not successful, and he didn't sell art. And therefore, he is now very wealthy because he kept all the building, had to keep all the building, all these works he owned. And I think there's also Barnett Newman and Rolf Ricke on an art fair. Yeah, Heiner Friedrich and Andy Warhol. And I was so awestruck from some moment on, and I thought, my God, and this is such a fantastic world, and that the gallerist even looks like a double of the artist. Yeah, and what is this? I chose Zwirner, yeah, so the father of David Zwirner. And down there is Schmäler, very important in Düsseldorf. Very, very important, but you will know him. I was a student of flute from 11 years old on, and my teacher brought me to the conservatory, Rheinische Musikschule. And Rheinische Musikschule, they did not have the studio for electronic music, but they also had a studio for electronic music. Maybe Kagel was the one in charge, but who was in charge were the Kontarski brothers. And Kontarski, they are the two on the right or the one on the right. And then the person in the dark costume, he was Johannes G. Fritsch. He always worked with, at that time, he always worked with Stockhausen, also stayed loyal over life, lifelong loyal. And he was into Fluxus and everything. And I had to go to his class. I was obliged to take theory lessons in like, how do you say it? Cadences, I don't know the English words for that, like composing and history. And what he did was, again, I don't know the words, like if the teacher tells you a text and you have to write it down, yeah, and you have to prove that you know how to spell the things, the words. And he did that with music, and he played the first line of All My Little Ducklings, and set 2 mistakes in. And then we had to write it down with his mistakes, and then he took our notes and played them one by one, which was very funny, because they had more mistakes. Or maybe one time a mistake was turned back to real, yeah? Double mistake. And so it was very funny with him, very nice with him. He's here again because of the beginnings of Cologne with electronic music and Fluxus. And because of playing the flute, I also got in contact with I could attend a very private rehearsal, so I knew his daughter. And why do I do this? Because actually, this is not in order, yeah, because that's also how I got to know Lamonte Young. This was my art teacher in school, and he is Hans Salentin on the left, and he could speak for 2 hours about whatever. So he was like an art historian. You could ask him, let's talk about Diderot today, then you did. You could talk about Duchamp, then you did. Talk about medieval time in France, then we did. And he was connected to Otto Pine, he was connected to Zero Group. And this is a famous photo where he visited Manzoni. So he I learned early on. I learned about merda d'artista from him, and actually also he knew many people. He knew many people. That's enough. And I got in contact with the gallerists. I got in contact. I started to visit openings, and on one opening, one of the early openings, I met Michael Bute, and this is a photo from this one exhibition where I met him, and he had exhibited with Rolf Ricke before, also a little bit in the style of Ricke was always with material. I don't know, Barry Levat, could have been Sarah, I don't know, things like that. And so he fit very well into that program. And then he started to visit Morocco shortly before this, and he turned out to become this persona. And I hadn't known him before, so I met him this day. And he was so nice, so I asked him, could I visit you? And he said yes, and gave me the telephone number or the address, I don't know. And from then on, I visited him for 3 years, I would say daily, or nearly daily. And that's also him. And in his house, because you could visit him and just talk with him about anything for hours. And he also had an open door, so also many other people came. And what was always in the apartment looked like the exhibition, like you were being in Morocco a little bit. And there was the black album of Lamonte Young and Marion Cecilia. So this photo didn't load. But I didn't want to exchange it because for me, it looks good like that. And for me, the most important thing was the music, the overtone singing, and I was in that through playing the flute, and but these ornaments of Marion Cecilia, and they, as you know, in Cologne, the projection worked like that. You had a positive and a negative in 2 different colors, and then the one blurred and the other one got in focus, and to and fro over long stretches of time. And I was really into it, and all of a sudden I was sitting there in this concert. Also Pandit Pranat was also there with them, and all of a sudden the door opened and Heiner Friedrich came in with someone, and he positioned himself just between the projection and the projector. So you saw his silhouette here in this beautiful pattern, and he asked very loudly, was Sigma here? And this was something for me that I just thought, yes, so this is how you have to do it. And so I was in awe. I mentioned the name of Sigmar Polke because Bute also introduced me. He didn't introduce me, he told me about Sigmar Polke, because at that time I started to learn art, and I started to learn the names, and I read Lucy Lippert pop art, and always looked at the image, at the name. When I saw the name, how does the image look like, and vice versa. So I could have gone to a quiz show on TV. And on the art fairs, I studied every single work of art, and they had these furniture with folders with you still have them in rare bookshops with prints, and you had Léger prints and etc., everything, Dieter Roth editions, and I studied every single one and thought, is it good, is it bad, is it this or is it that? And I would say I liked everything. Everything was interesting. But I didn't like Sigmar Polke. I thought, oh, that's stupid. And then when I visited Michael Bute, and he had one of the large early Polke drawings in the hallway, I asked him about that and said, do you like that? And he told me the best things about Sigmar Polke. One day I came to the apartment, and there was a small sign at the door, we will come tomorrow, Sigmar. And then the next day I was there from morning to evening waiting for Sigmar Polke, who didn't show up. But one day he did show up, so this is because Heiner Friedrich came in there and said, was Sigmar here? And this is Michael Bute again with the friend, the partner of Sigmar Polke. And this is the apartment where I visited Polke first time. This is still the old apartment that you know from all the photos with these tilted walls, Blinky Palermo. And then, because I have no timeline for all this, yeah, this is all mixed up. I also, with Michael Bute, I also had met this artist in the back, and his name is Seo Pevken, but he also doesn't live anymore. And he was the nephew of Nico Pevken, who also comes from Cologne. And one day there was, at Ricke showed a huge Rosenquist exhibition, like one of these complete rooms set up by paintings. Yeah, the paintings were hanging from the ceiling and built a room, and the paintings were only hanging to this height, and there were fork machines behind it. Yeah, so, and I went there too, and then I went over to the Seo Pevken exhibition, and was actually hoping to see Nico finally, huh? And then the door opened, and this is Brigitte Berlin, actually a very, how can you say that? She was not only big, she was like safe. Yeah, also a real person was standing there next to me. The door opened, and Brigitte Polk came in, and she just said, "Was James here?" And I was so absolutely impressed, and just thought, this is the way you have. Also, this not you have to do it. This is the way it goes. Yeah, and this is different in New York over there, and so on and so on. So it started in my brain, and then there is the second story. So at that time, I don't know exactly, but I had very long hair, so I only show it because of the long hair. And so this is Lil Picard, and here this is Lil Picard at the opening of Jack Smith at Onash Gallery in, I think, Spring Street. And what's her name? Telly Brown is maybe her name. The fantastic actress in the middle up there. She is in Camp. And Lil Picard, so it was said, I think Michael Bute said it to me, that Lil Picard was visiting Seo Pevken, and she was staying there, and you could go there and visit her. So I immediately went over, and she was sitting there and wearing a wig like Andy Warhol, and the wig was also not in order, so you could see her gray hair underneath. She just did the same thing. And she talked about Andy, and she wore hot pants, and so here the curtain is actually a coat. Yeah, she wore hot pants underneath, and these shoes, and the shoes had laces in the front and a zip at the side. Also, I was in awe, and then you could talk with her there for an hour or two, and then everyone had to leave the room because she had to nap. She was going to nap. So we all had to sit in the kitchen for half an hour or in the sleeping room, and then half an hour was over. We could all go back and continue talking. And this happened for 2-3 days, and I went there every day. And she said something to me, and that was the time when, and I didn't look up the years. Yeah? That was the time when Andy Warhol had started to visit Germany, and did these Concorde flights all the time. And she said that I should just ring the bell of the factory, because Andy Warhol would love Germans, and young Germans, and with long blonde hair. And so that was actually my mission to finally, so let me not show me this so long, that became my mission to finally make it to New York. That was also the time of Joe D'Alessandro, and I was thinking of being a superstar too. And when I took a bath, I went into the bathtub with a mirror and showered my hair and looked in the mirror and called it an Andy Warhol film with the title of Shower. And so Michael Bute again. And then there was a day, and also I don't know the year, but I was really very young, that Heiner Friedrich again showed Blue Movie in the gallery, in the back room of the gallery. And I was excited again. I was more than excited. My problem actually was I didn't know, because it was said that you had sexual intercourse in there, and I said, yeah, how can I do it? Yeah, so I can, if I will have an erection or something like that. So you can never get up to the restroom, and but all that did not happen, and this is important for me for the style of the gallery, and to have this. I can't explain it very well. That was also the time of Roxy music, very important. And then the same time, this was a party at Fritz Heubach and at Annette Bierbach's house. This was the closing party for Interfunktionen. And the day before, I had been visiting Polke and Mariette Althaus. And they had asked me, what are you doing together? Because we will be in Cologne tomorrow. We go to a party, and Fritz Heubach is the one who invites, and he's a psychologist, but he's okay. That was a nice sentence. And when you like to, just go over, because he asked us, how many will you bring? And we didn't answer yet. And so I went, and I was so excited that I was an hour early, and I ran around the block 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, until finally I made it. And when I was up there, I knew how half of the people, luckily, and you see me up there, of course, but that is Birgit Küng, because she will come up again. Yeah, down there is Maria Gelissen, lots of name dropping. Maria Gelissen, the wife of Brotas, Buchloh, Oppels, Isa Gensken, Schult, the writer, and Brotas. And the same time, because I want to speak about these complications. I went from one kind of family to the other family, and these were very, very different worlds. This was an opening of Michael Bute at midnight in Kunstverein Köln, early 70s, and I had helped him to build it up. And here you see me sitting in front of this. It was called a ship. Was a sleeping room. And next to me is Buchloh, and then Isa Gensken, and then Antonius Höckelmann, the artist. And Michael Werner showed a Höckelmann Arnulf Reiner exhibition a year ago, last year. And but I want to say that these things happened all together. It became complicated for me, and I liked everything, but the way they talked this was a very political world, and there was there were sharper arguments, and the contents and everything. Yeah? So I also want to say, because I showed the Roxy music, I don't know, that was maybe 73, I guess, or 72. Then this was 73, and this was 74. Yeah? And that's a bit important. And also this was the time, Roxy music, yeah, it's wonderful, but at the time there was also this was kitsch, this was up, yeah? People, you saw that in advertisement and so on, this kind of style. And that also happened this year, or the year maybe 74, Frankenstein. I don't know exactly when this happened. 75, it says. These were the porn chick movies, and this will come up again. And film sensation from USA. And it was like Deep Throat and The Green Door and all these films. To get around censorship, you had to pay a relatively high amount. So I maybe saw only one film. Also, I remember that I went inside once because you had to pay 50 D-Mark or something like that. And the film was for free, but you had to buy a small bottle of cheapest sparkling wine, the worst you could find, some nuts to eat, worst quality, and something else, also worst quality, for 15 D-Mark, and then you could go inside, watch the movie. But it was a sensation indeed, yeah. And I mean, the films are hilarious. Also, hilarious also means funny. They are amazing. Yeah? So it's not my favorite word, amazing. I don't know another one. And and then, that's actually also why I show it, because I saw the Blue Movie at Heiner Friedrich's gallery, and then these porn movies came out, and then in Germany they turned Andy Warhol's Blue Movie into a commercial film, and you could go to the cinema and see it again. And now on the internet, at Wikipedia, you read that this was the first film of porn chick. I think that's incredible. That was also the time, yeah. Willy Brandt, the Chancellor of Germany, being portrayed by Andy Warhol. Fred Hughes, also very working. I have it here because of the Concorde flights. Yeah? And this is something that I didn't really know at that time. I understood it when I read Bob Colacello's Holy Terror. And then, also during all this time, when I had met Buchloh, Opitz, Heubach, Annette Bierbach, Candida Höfer, so these meetings all the time happened, and I was there quite a lot. And this is in the house of Candida Höfer's father. He had a spectacular house, he and his wife. His wife was a prima donna ballet dancer of Cologne. And this is at Buchloh's and Opitz's house. These photos, they all come from a catalog of Candida Höfer and Opitz and Friedemann von Stockhausen. They set it up, a chapter with photos from that time. And here on the left is Fritz Heubach, standing Annette Bierbach. Lothar Baumgarten is on the right. That's me with Jule, at that time Jule Lüppertz. Today her name is Jule Kevenich. She was my friend, but I will talk about that later. But this was the opening of Polke in Münster with the original and forgery paintings. A spectacular exhibition with a spectacular catalog. All had happened. Nothing like that had happened before. And Lothar Baumgarten, and but not important, that's on the same opening with Heubach. This is a photo with Heubach again, and I show it because Birgit Küng is seen so often here. Again, Candida Höfer, the sister of Konrad Fischer, and so on. And this is someone, Hagen Lieberknecht, and he is not on the photos because you could meet him, you could visit him, and also he hosted maybe 2-3 dinners. He was an incredible cook, and he was the one, he had studied with Heubach art history and other things, and he was like kind of the expert, and he knew everything, and he was also like, I don't know if he was wealthy or if he behaved like that. He had a big, not a big car. It was, everything was like in style, but also when he had a cheese there, that was. Also, I've never. Something like that exists. It's Heubach himself, yeah. But I've only seen this quality twice, and so later he became. What he did actually, he did conversations with Josef Beuys in the very beginning of Interfunktion. He was also involved in Interfunktion. And it is this one white book, Zeichnungen 1, where the drawings are printed in light print and not in offset print. Yeah? like in a photomechanical printing, which makes the difference. And drawings that are made during the conversation are printed in offset. So you also have the difference in that fabulous book. And so he was the one who talked with Beuys over there, and Beuys always visited him because of that with his Bentley. And then at some point everything changed. Why did everything change? I didn't live in Cologne for 10 years, but that will be a bit later. And when I came back, Polke had turned to be the Polke that he was like a little bit before Venice. Yeah? It was not the Polke of the 70s anymore. And Hagen Lieberknecht was the one who gave him hints, like the Dürerschleife comes from Hagen Lieberknecht, for example. Photo of me and Annette Bierbach is a bit important for me to show. I can say here that with these different families, Edith is the woman on the left. She was the wife of Didier Bay. Didier Bay is a French artist, like in the kind of Boltanski, but for my taste, much, much better what he did at that time. And Annette Bierbach, she was a teacher at school and then a school director, and then she became a kind of an anthropologist. But she was a physician, and she was living together with Heubach, and all the artists came. Everything. Also, there were all these conversations. Everything was real. Why do I say it? Because I want to say that not in every room you had respect to the other room, which does not mean disrespect, but this is also what I was in when I went from this room to that room to that room, that there were very different very different kinds of thinking. So these people who did, I call them the intellectuals, kind of, and they were intellectuals. They had no respect to art dealers, for example, but they were befriended, for example, with Marcel Brotas, and Marcel Brotas came by and so on. But Marcel Brotas, he worked with the art dealers, and Buchloh also worked in a gallery, and also he published and he accepted commitments and a few. So it was very, very mixed. These I just showed. This is Jule again. This was the opening at Zwirner with the original literary paintings of Marcel Brotas. These where you have it says something like Baudelaire peint, for example. I only showed this to show Jule Kevenich, because this is important for my Cologne. She opened an Art Deco shop, and that's how I met her first time. And the Art Deco shop, her Art Deco shop was the second one. Before there were Tobis and Silex, that was also spectacular, different story. But her shop was very small. And you came inside, and you had, I wrote that down somewhere because the English, it had a linoleum flooring, but the linoleum, it was not linoleum, it was thick plastic, flesh toned. And under the plastic, you had a layer of foam. And the whole thing was held at the wall by skirting board, which means that the floor was like a cushion, and when you walked on it, you sank in, and there was some furnitures were very heavy, like something like this, in flesh tone mirrors, covered with flesh tone mirrors, and that really sank into that floor, and the light was on day and night, so you could walk by in the night and had this extreme light blue neon light, and it was not it was like the neon light that you can form, only this small string. So that was on day and night. When you went inside, you already looked ill, and That was style. And the back room was painted dark brown, and it had a dark brown flocati rug. And this rug got matted over time, yeah, and more matted and more matted. It got really old, and it stayed like that. Also, it was beautiful. And also the walls were painted dark brown, but one and the two rooms together were as large as the garage for one car. So it was very tiny. And on one wall, a spot was left white. Below it was painted brown. Around it was painted brown. And it was said that Sigmar Polke would make a painting for this place or paint the wall. They had no idea. So one day this famous painting, Salon Pirates is the title, arrived, but it never made it to the Art Deco shop because Michael Werner immediately showed it on the art fair. And it was my favorite painting of anything. And she made a very good poster, and then a second poster, and then she wanted to make a third poster, and she said to me, her idea was that Maria Gelissen, her and me, we should travel to New York. That was my second chance. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. And I should stand on the chairs here in Radio City Music Hall with Maria Gelissen. And I don't know what her idea was about it, but I thought it was a very good idea and was looking forward to my visit to New York. And I only saw Radio City Music Hall a few years ago. Finally. Like the Temple of Art Deco, yeah? When you see all the Donaldeschi things and in the lounges and so on. And this is same time because Jule Luppertz was her name at that time, and she was very befriended with James Lee Byers, and that's here me and James Lee Byers. That's also me because I had to go to military then. And I only stayed for 1 month, so they let me out, luckily. It was a very hard time. And but one weekend in this 1 month, I was in prison nearly all the time. And also I had to work, but I couldn't sleep with the other soldiers. Then I had to go back to prison. But one weekend I could travel to Cologne, and this is in the house of Candida Höfer. And here I'm wearing my sports shirt, and Jule asked me to give it to her. She wanted to give it to Maria Gelissen for the collection of Marcel Brotas, but I don't know if it got there. And then I had to do civil service in a nursery house by Cologne. And I want to show these photos because I love the touch of these photos so much. And it was also a very good time. And but I missed everything in the arts. I didn't travel to Cologne. I was there in this village. And with very different and interesting people. And during that time, so I missed this. That happened at the same moment in Cologne, the exhibition where Hans Hake was censored out, where Daniel Beren wanted to show the Hans Hake work on his work, was also censored and thrown out. And then history has it that Brotas protested by adding a third palm tree to the 2 existing ones in his work. And this is Jack Smith. This is the car that I had shown before of Wolf Hostel. It had moved in the meantime, and is here the prop for Jack Smith. And Lutze is standing behind the car, holding up the lobster. And Udo Kier, who was then in Frankenstein and Dracula. And I just show this because this is Thordis Möller, Jule in Heiner Friedrich, at Heiner Friedrich Gallery. And these are all photos by my friend of that time, Klaus von Bruch. and he turned them into art. Yeah? So you can see these photos online, but he put these Lametta is the German word for it on it. So it is also art. Isa Gensken, Candida Höfer. Oh, what's happening here? Sorry. I might need help. I don't know what happened.
What happened?
You know, I move it with these.
Okay. Still moving.
Ah, this is moving. Ah.
Yes.
Okay, then I don't watch this anymore.
Oh,
This is moving all the time, and I'm always looking here.
oh, then use this. Oh,
Okay, I'll try to forget this.
okay.
Tthank you very much.
Then this one.
So-
You should- No, it's not corresponding.
It's okay.
It got
I
another.
just chased it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, Polke, Opitz, Konrad Fischer, Lutze, Mitzka, an important friend of mine, because I then had to think about studying art, and that will come up later. And he was also involved he was also dubbing porn movies. Like he went with me to, we passed by a porn movie theater, and he said, "Now let's see what's up." And he said, "Oh, let's go in." And I felt embarrassed because I didn't understand why he wanted to see a porn movie together with me. And he always, before they said something, he said the sentence to me. And so that I knew what was up. And the film is beautiful. Also, I don't want to make a bad joke here. It's like a Hitchcock psycho story. And like the pawn chick also had there was Wakefield Pool, and I really recommend to watch Boys in the Sand and Bijou, and there was also a connection then to also this was real chic, and you have to read the story yourself. Also it broke my heart. So beautiful it is. And then also Andy Warhol asked him, when he had done the Whitney exhibition with the wallpaper, he had asked him to film it as a documentation, which he agreed to. And so that just was a note. Mitzka also invited Jack Smith to Hamburg to do the dance with the penguin. Again, Paul L. Hansen. This I only have here. I want to have some Brotas in here because he doesn't show up on the photos. And also Heiner Friedrich did something, or Six Friedrich, I don't know. So this is a book. This is a famous poster, The Train Robbers. Then this is a very beautiful work of Marcel Brotas with Iliana Sonnabend, and I don't know who's sitting next to her. Do you like pop? And this is a very beautiful, also one of my favorite Brotas drawings with all the quality in it. And I think it is the ship of J.P. Morgan. It looks to me like that, because I've seen the photos of the J.P. Morgan yacht. And he plays with the word, with the name of New York in a very funny way, yeah? NW, N, and what is that down there? And he also signed Campbell soup here on the left. And this, I have it here because of the Heubach, Opitz, Buchloh, Lothar Baumgarten, Annette Bierbach, Candida Höfer, because of this group of people, yeah. And this was on the first page, on the first inner page of Interfunktionen 11, that was done by Buchloh. And you have this sentence on the right. And I just run through these. I will be finished soon with it, very soon. Because Polke had moved, I don't know, 1972 perhaps, he had moved to Willich. He had rented a farm from another artist, so it was already equipped. Also there was already a kitchen in it and everything. And I recently found photos of Achim Ducho, who painted with him. Also here in the back you see one of the monkeys of the original and forgery exhibition. And just to give you a taste of what that was. And you might know the flamingo in the back. Yeah? Here it isn't stretched yet. And and you could visit him, and you had to take a train. For me it was complicated, and you could stay overnight. Palermo. Chris Kohlhofer. There was a Zurich connection, a big one. Also that was something, but I never made it to Zurich. So I never met Fischli Weiss at that time. They were my age. Yeah? They were also the young ones. This is Jule Lüpertz. Lüpertz again, I like to show that. Yeah? That's how he looked like at that time. When I met him, yeah, and then became his student. Again, one of the photos of original and forgery. And at the same time, always also this happened. Yeah? This was not something that got deep into my mind at that moment. It was Michael Escher with painting the ceiling in the same color as the floor, and doing the same in the office. Yeah. Here, this is on an art fair. I only want to show the style. I like the style a lot. And on the right, there's one drawings in this line, the fourth from the right. I own this now because my mother bought it in this booth for a low price. Huh? What happened here again? Yeah. And I inherited it from her. Also in Cologne in the gallery, I visited Palermo and Richter while they were doing it, and Palermo was standing on the stairs rolling the color or doing the color. I don't know if he rolled it or painted it, I forgot. And Richter made jokes about sculptures, that they had thought about the testicles like in Greece sculptures, but then had decided not to do that. And this was a spectacular booth down there, and it was an art fair, so you can read the time. It's not important for me here, but these were four drawings. The Reise auf der Unendlichkeitsnacht, the trip on the Infinity Age, perhaps. And it is, I would say, like a drug trip, like either LSD or mushrooms. And like the beginning, the start, and the travel, and coming back, and like the full chaos. And these are four drawings, and one was shown in the Polke exhibition at MoMA a few years ago. But now they cannot travel anymore. The one in Tübingen is the largest one. They don't give it away for loan anymore. And at that time, they were hanging for one day in this booth, because Heiner Friedrich and Tordes Möller, they changed the booth every day. Yeah? One day was Richter, probably. One Richter was Warhol, probably. And always like big things of this caliber. And also on the other side, there was the Konrad Fischer booth. And Konrad Fischer showed only small things, like he was perhaps showing things of his program. I don't remember that. And he had 4 Polaroid photos of these 4 drawings there on the wall, and one was taken off because in this booth there were only 3 of the drawings. The 4th one was too large, so they put the small Polaroid in the middle of the wall. Also, I was very impressed and still am. And then people talked about Heiner Friedrich moved to America, and then I heard someone saying he's doing real estate. And then I forgot about him, yeah. But then later, of course, I read that he visited the Roscoe Chapel, and then I don't know anything about this, yeah, step by step. So he met I must read her name. Faria. But at that time, maybe still Philippa, I don't know. Because, yeah, I will say that's better. And it is Helen Winkler, and the 3 of them. And I had to make decisions, so I wanted to begin to study art. And Heubach and also Polke told me Hamburg were the best place. And I went there, but there was no, this is Mitzka, who helped me in Hamburg. And he also introduced me to many, many things. It was very important for me. But there was no Polke who would be my teacher. And I immediately called Markus Lüpertz, whom I had met a little bit before. And so I decided, so I studied with Markus Lüpertz, but I had to stay in Hamburg for a year, which was very lucky for me, for my later life. And this is exile in Berlin, when the Viennese activists had to flee. Otherwise, some of them would have been in prison. So this was founded in Berlin, and I finally went, and through Mitzka had an incredible bookshelf with most dangerous things, like all the psychological books of 1890 to 1920, and very dangerous stuff. So he had all the Viennese actionist books there. He had really perverse books like The Face of the Dying Person, people who were about to die, photographed by a photographer, like in quality photography. So, and I took these books. I stayed at his place lots of times, always when he was traveling. I could stay there by myself, and I took a pile of books when I went to sleep, and then looked in these pages, yeah. It was too tough, yeah, and you had people who masturbated, and to enhance the sensation, they had to put plastic bags on their heads, and they died that way, like forensic photography and so on. Yeah, so that was a good thing that I learned there, and for him visiting Exil. That was also the day when Mitzka went to me to the porn movie, and the same day he showed me the DDR, East Berlin, which I had never seen before, so I was high on drugs without taking anything. And here in Exil, I was sitting at the table with Oswald Wiener and Günter Bruce, and saw all that, and I said to myself, finally you arrived in hell. And luckily, finally you did it. And also I had read texts before in Schatztrommel, like the crime committed on paper by Oswald Wiener, and I thought, my God, and here they do, it's real, yeah, what they write. They really do it here. Yeah? So this is Michel Wörtle, who passed away a few months ago, but here he is still in Vienna. And so I didn't stay in Hamburg, and went to South Germany, to Karlsruhe, to be a student of Markus Lüpertz. And Markus Lüpertz was also befriended with Achim Duchow, who took all these photos before. And then something important happened. I hope it's still related to Andy Warhol, by the way. this was the exhibition that Buchholz planned and curated. What was the name? It doesn't matter the name. This was the big perspective, and it happened in 3 cities. And the main one, of course, was not in Tübingen, was here in Düsseldorf. And Polke was not d'accord with doing it. And during the MoMA retrospective, these photos were shown in Art Forum. They were not shown in the catalog. And I have been there at the opening. And many people were angry, and I don't know what I thought. I was too stupid. Yeah, I was still thinking about why is Polke doing these things that he's doing now, and why didn't he stick to the kind of art he did in the 60s? And but stupid me. Yeah? Anyway, I can show you this on this. Here is also down there is Fritz Heubach, and Polke only appeared for a moment. I didn't see him on the opening. So he must have been beaten up, and for some, which fits. And so here you see a bit of the architecture. Yeah, you enter the Kunsthalle. You still do that today. Go up a few steps, and then go left into the large space. And the space is very high because more steps go up and lead to this plateau up there. From there you can go into another exhibition space, which has a very low ceiling. And in this space you can go to the front again, and there you have like a railing, like a kind of balcony. And from there you can look down into the big room, into the large room. And the large room was blocked, and Polke did it the night before, so Buchholz didn't know about it, and Jürgen Harten didn't know about this. It was the fact the next morning. And this sentence says, of course, Kunst macht frei, like art makes you free, like the concentration camp Arbeit macht frei. Yeah? And so you couldn't get inside. You could only go up the stairs, and up there was an exhibition with Polke, with Andy Warhol, prints and posters, and also very funny. Yeah? And from there you went to the balcony, and there were 4 things like this, 4 stands with projectors, and they projected, and this is not said anywhere, and there is no photo existing. And I asked, and it doesn't exist. There was like Adolf Hitler and Goebbels, always click, 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 like in a dia carousel. And down there were the photos that had been loaned from owners, from the collectors, from owners. And they, maybe 2, 3 of them were unwrapped, leaning by the wall, at the wall. And the rest was not unwrapped. And he took lots of these paintings and built a swastika on the floor. A large swastika, like here in this room. Eh? And and many people were very angry, and that's what you saw in that opening. And also he had thrown all his photos, and there were tons of photos that he printed every night in his shower, were just thrown down there like in a parade for Goebbels or Adolf Hitler. It was quite something. And let me just... This is West Broadway, where the exhibition happened, with the shadow paintings, yeah? And in the back, on the left side, I stayed there a few nights. That was Urizen Publishing House. Urizen published this book. That was the time of CBGB, and I went to CBGB every night. I saw Richard Hell, and I met Steve Baters, and I met Diego Cortez, and they were so friendly every night. I could just have stayed. And I saw the exhibition of Palermo to the people of New York. It says he's there during the installation, but he had passed away already early that year. So here it is again. This was Urizen. This was Urizen. This was Urizen. I show it actually because Heiner Friedrich did real estate, yeah, and I didn't know about that yet. Maciunas, being a kind of real estate agent, like an informal one, by having all the telephone numbers in this carousel and hearing about a building and calling 6 people, and then they bought the building. This is then Heiner Friedrich with Lamonte Young's Marion Zazela's Dream House, the first one. This was when I stayed down there by the World Trade Center. I wanted to write a postcard, and there was no bench anywhere. So I found a place where I could sit down, and this was the landfill of Battery Park. And I was actually sleeping there next to a sewing machine. That was the machine where all the costumes of Jack Smith were made at that time. And this is Opitz. This is Mrs. Becker, and she was the one who was befriended with Jack Smith and did the sewing, and she was the sound person for shamans in the blind country. Here she is. And because so many chicken are slaughtered in that film, Jack Smith came to the premiere and brought, and this film was also produced by Wieland Schulz-Keil, who did Urizen, and Jack Smith brought living chicken as a present for the film launch. Yeah? This is the landfill, and lots of things happened there, and also this. I did not know about pictures, happened in 79 probably. I didn't know about this. I didn't know about the West Side at all. This is what I learned at that moment from Fritz Heubach. This would lead me to my finishing arguments that I'm sorry I cannot tell you anymore. I think I can stop here. Yeah? What? This is a good one to stop. Yeah, this is the castle where Baselitz lived, and I lived there for 1 year. And this is the finishing photo, because one day Philippa de Menil and Heiner Friedrich knocked at the door, rang the bell, and I went down to open the door for them. And Heiner Friedrich said, "What are you doing here?" That's my last.
Do we have any questions for Michael? Yes.
Could you show us the rest of your slides? The rest of the slides. Right now.
Julie Sylvester. Dominique de Menil, Philippa de Menil. Philippa de Menil, Heiner Friedrich, and a policeman. Bridget Polk, Bridget Berlin. A beautiful text by, I would say, Bob Colacello. I love the text, no time for this. Julie Sylvester again. Julie Sylvester and Birgit Küng, whom I showed before so often, with Fred Sandbeck here. Begin of 80s, which made me depressive, which triggered a big depression. Here, this was my friendship at that time. Then a drawing of mine turned into an artwork by Albert Oehlen. Now this is my Berlin time. This was my important book about dandyism that I got in and never made it out of that. That is a famous book that is not known in New York because it's all German language, but this was the early Albert Oehlen, Kippenberger, Büttner, and the book is fabulous. This is a monument, this text. I did 2 press releases recently for my last 2 exhibitions, and I related to this. This has to do with my depression. I would have talked about that. Then Andy Wall would have come back into my notes. This was with Kippenberger then, Birgit Küng again. This is just to show that Kippenberger was a real one and Andy Wall was a real one. And so this I always knew, but I found that and I said, oh, this is just too beautiful. And also they were so similar. You know Kippenberger as a painter, and he was not. He was also the painting beside itself. Yeah, it's built on a quote by Kippenberger. This is what Kippenberger was doing, taking photos of hotel beds. But this is Andy Wall did this one, of course. Call in the Land. So that was a nice thing and also a real one. And this was Andy Wall turned into that. I couldn't understand that. And I like it all now, like antiquities, but... And then I got to know through Birgit Küng, I had the chance to meet and also to be invited to Thomas Ammann, and I loved him. And this is only for a reason of glamour. He's on hundreds of photos of these contact sheets of Andy Wall. Here he is again. This is just a funny photo, very funny, with Fred Hughes. This is an ad in Art Forum that Andy Wall made, that Thomas Ammann made, and I checked the date, and I tried to find out if somebody had passed away. Nobody passed away, so he really only did it for style. And he was very stylish. And this was recently on auction, and of course I went, the shot Blue Suede, Marilyn, and Sage, I don't know, Marilyn, and it looked so unreal that I took photos of the corners because they luckily look a little bit real, also look real. And this is Brandhorst and Udo Brandhorst, Annette Brandhorst, and I show them because they, during this time, like 80s, late 80s, 90s, they bought Andy Warhol paintings like those that nobody liked. Also from my point of view, nobody liked them at that time. And now I love them, yeah? Like these, the drag queens, the whatever it was. And this is my wife, Cosima von Bonin, with Kai Althoff, Oswald Wiener, Fritz Heubach. I decided to ask them to be a guest student. So I got into lots of things. I started to study this kind of painting, Merlin Carpenter, this kind of painting, this kind of painting. I started to care about how someone invents an artistship within an existence as a poet, a life as a poet. And also finishing this, he didn't do it, he had planned for that, yeah? He didn't do it because he passed away. Dieter Roth, very important, here in the kitchen of Christopher Wool's father in Chicago. That's what I finally did. You also, for me the important thing is my sentence up there, like in this direction, vertical, and it says not showing what you can do, but what you cannot do. This was my text in my book, Alien Hybrid Creatures. this text kind of saved my life. Again, yeah, because the book came out, I did something like I'm doing here, and I praised Andy Warhol and praised him and praised him and praised him because I thought of him finally as the not real painter, and with dandyism, also that was what I loved most. But on the other hand, I thought that his paintings looked so much better than the paintings of the real painters. So I praised him as like one of the old icon painters, and yeah, I still think that way. That's the title of my book, my exhibition, the session, the pictures on the walls in the session. Because my exhibition actually was only the book launch. And I didn't know at that time that Saturn is connected to melancholy. That happened. I would have talked about that. Then I moved to New York. I was beautifully asked by Jay Sanders to come by. Douglas Crimp, I owe him a lot because I learned about Ronald Tavel. I didn't know all that. And then this was excavating the costumes. And these beautiful things, unreachable. Yolanda the penguin, here she is already dead. And this was the one who was used in Hamburg for Dancing with the Penguin. This is where I saw, it's finished in 2 minutes. This is where I saw shadow paintings first in the gallery here on first floor. I don't know the name of the gallery. The exhibition was beautiful, like also with proof prints and small things and larger things like that, but no large ones. And this was a fabulous book by Chantal Crouzel Gallery, and you have to look inside. I can't. It's because you have to see all the pages. It's really material, and I bought 5 copies of this book. First time I saw the shadow paintings here when they were brought to Manhattan by Ralph Simons for Calvin Klein. Then I visited them finally, and this is what a friend of mine did. And he did something with the title, and here this, I don't show all of the older works, but here these are older works, shadow paintings, older work again, and I saw finally with the shadow paintings at that time they were up, the beautiful Palermo paintings, and this is to finish the empty room of Stanley Brown at Dia Beacon.